Get $1,500 cash rebate on qualified HVAC systems from Premier Heating and Air. No payments for 60 days for qualified buyers. Get financing options no matter what your credit situation. Call 478-300-2633 or log on to DublinPremierIsHere.com. Premier Heating and Air, a locally owned and operated company. Offer ends 11/30/24.
I work with the Georgia Department of Transportation. I am very pleased to be here for this Safe Driving Summit for you guys here at Oconee Fall Technical College. We are very, very, very happy to have you guys here. Today is truly all about you, and we really, really want you guys to take a lot, and I pray that you guys receive what you need to receive to understand the importance of roadway safety and decisions that you make and how they affect others around you while you're on the road. Like I said, today is truly about you guys. We have some very important people. They're about to come up and speak to you, share some light to you about how serious this event is and what we do to make you guys safe while we're on the roads. How many of you have heard of Georgia Department of Transportation? Like GDOT? Okay. How many of you actually think that it's more than likely GDOT's fault when something goes wrong on the roads? By show of hands. Okay, I'm glad you guys actually understand it's not us. Great. 9 times out of 10, a lot of the things that you see were in terms of crashes, we don't call them accidents, we call them crashes because they're all preventable. These are things that can be corrected. A lot of it is user errors, not really our systems, but we continue to make our systems safer so we can limit the decisions that you have to make while you're on the road. So today, I ask that you guys do me simple things. Stay off your phone, pay attention, and take this seriously. Because these guys, everybody that's here, took time out their day to come speak to you, share this information with you, and share a part of their story. You're going to hear a wonderful keynote coming up later on that I pray that you guys take seriously and understand how much it affects. But let me get out the way. One of our first members that we would have come up is our GDOT board member from District 12, Congressional District 12, Dan Snipes.
Just very briefly, my name's Dan Snipes. I grew up in Dublin, Georgia. I practice law in Statesboro now, but it's my pleasure to be here. I represent the 12th Congressional District, which goes from Lincoln County north of Augusta all the way down to the Altamaha River. It is on behalf of Commissioner Russell McMurray and the 14 members of the State Transportation Board, I cannot tell you how happy GDOT is to partner with Mike and Mary Lutzenkirchen to try to help young people understand the importance of safe driving. With the Department of Transportation, we build and design roads, and that's part of safe driving. But the equally and greater part of that is good driving habits and understanding how to be a safe driver. On behalf of the State Department of Transportation, it's our hope that you pick up some tips today that'll make you a safer driver that'll carry through your entire adult life. But thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Dan. We really appreciate all that you do on the board for us. Right now, I'll also introduce from our very own campus here, Tiffany Stanley.
All right, we're going to try this again. If you are a student and you attend Dublin High School, East Lawrence High School, and West Lawrence High School, stand up. Now give yourselves a round of applause. Awesome. All right, I am so thrilled to have you all here at the Safe Drive It Summit at Oconee Fall Line Technical College. It's wonderful to see so many young drivers that are committed to learning how to make our roads safer and being a part of a positive community change. The aim of today's summit is simple yet powerful: to encourage and empower each of you to be positive ambassadors for safe driving. Each decision you make behind the wheel, it matters. And today, you'll be given the tools and knowledge to make the right choices every time. Now, while you're here, I'd like to take a moment to highlight why Oconee Fall Line Technical College is such an outstanding choice for furthering your education. Yay! With the 99% job placement rate, our graduates are well prepared and highly sought after in the workplace. We offer over 100 associate degrees, diplomas, and certificate programs. So whatever your interest or career goals are, there's something here for you. And there's no better time to think about your future because November is no fee November. Now that means throughout this month, all application fees are waived. So it's a fantastic opportunity to take the first steps toward a rewarding career without any extra cost. So once again, I salute you, I thank you, and I'm proud of you. I hope you find the summit inspiring, informative, and most importantly, empowering. Remember, safe driving starts with you. Enjoy the summit.
Thank you everyone for having me here. I am Teresa Standard. I am the South Georgia representative for Teens in the Driver's Seat. Teens in the Driver's Seat is a peer-to-peer program where we want to develop a traffic safety culture at your schools. So what we do is you guys are going to teach each other about traffic safety. We're going to provide you the knowledge, we're going to provide you the tools, we're going to give you the games, whatever you need to be successful, and then we're going to pay you to do it. So you guys can look right there. Can you go to the next slide, please? A lot of the benefits. So when I say we're going to pay you to do it, we're going to give you a little bit of money to go into your organization's account. So we go through any teacher, anybody who has an organization like FCCLA, HOSA, etc., any other CTAEs. It can be a regular teacher, a health PE teacher, anybody who has time to be with students, basically. So some of the other things that happen is you'll get a free educational resource kit, and all of this you can see is brought to you free by our sponsors. So GDOT is our huge sponsor. We also, GM sponsors us, State Farm, and then the FMCSA. So you're going to get a free educational resource kit. It includes 12 free t-shirts. And then you'll see, when you come by my table, you'll see some of the TDS, what we call promo items, that you can give out to your students as you message out to each other. It's very important to us that teens teach teens, and then your teachers, you're going to make them their guide. So you're going to put in the activity reports and anything that you need to do to help earn your organization cash for your school. Let's see. Leadership opportunities. We have Teens in the Driver's Seat is called a TAB member. These are on the Teen Advisory Board. If you're chosen to be on the Teen Advisory Board, then you will be able to meet with other teens across the United States. You'll talk to them. It is a great thing to put on your resume. You help make decisions about what goes on across the country with Teens in the Driver's Seat. You tell us things that work. You tell us things that don't work. So you have a voice and you are empowered, and that's what Teens in the Driver's Seat will do for you. Also, we have different opportunities if your school allows, like Dublin, East Lawrence, West Lawrence, if they allow you to have a graduation cord, you can earn an extra graduation cord by participating in an extra mile. So you can get your own graduation cord for Teens in the Driver's Seat, which is very important, to people, to your seniors that are graduating. Other things, I've already talked about that. There's all kinds of contests going on. So at lunchtime, when your teachers and when you guys come around, you can stop by our table and I'll show you about the driving message contest where you can also earn cash for your school. All right, and if you have any questions, I'll be here at lunch.
We have a lot to be thankful for during this Thanksgiving season here at Dublin Chevy GMC, and we'd like to pass on those blessings to our customers with savings like these. 2024 Silverados and Sierras starting at $45,995.
Well, trucking is a 7 days a week, 24 hours a day operation. So there's a tremendous need for the logistics field, for drivers and mechanics to work on. Fred had a desire to be a mechanic. We encouraged him to seek some additional training that's offered through OFTC, which he did. What he learned at OFTC has just taken his job and his performance to another level.
Thank you again, Teresa. Thank you to all of our presenters who've been up so far. We really appreciate everything that you do. Right now, I'm honored to introduce the reason why we're here, which is the LUSI 43 Foundation. And I really hope you guys take this video seriously because I'm honored to be a part of this and to support this foundation. What they do truly does make an impact. So stay tuned for the video that we have right now.
He had unbelievable talent. He had a great personality. He had the work ethic. He had the character. He had everything we were looking for.
He was a leader and led from a vocal standpoint or just doing what he was supposed to do. Him being fired up got all of us fired up, and we kind of followed suit.
Takes the snap, looking to the receiver. He's got Lutson Kirkin. Touchdown Auburn! Touchdown Auburn! Lutson Kirkin. He threw it back across the field. 7-yard play. Touchdown Tigers. Your title 27.
The movie roll dance after the touchdown, but then as soon as he did that, he gathered himself and turned around. Where are my teammates? I want to celebrate with my teammates. And so that one play in and of itself kind of embodied who Philip was, both as a person and a football player.
He kind of had it all. He was a great guy. You know, his teammates loved him. He worked hard. He was an outstanding football player and athlete.
Mosley on the play action, closing the flat. Lutson Kirkin, 5, going to the goal line. He's in! Touchdown Auburn!
And he just was a huge goofball. If he wasn't having fun doing what he was doing, he wasn't going to enjoy it and he wasn't going to pursue it. So he loved football and he had a lot of fun doing it, and he always had a smile on his face, and he was always trying to cheer his teammates up and get the crowd going by smiling and laughing, and he never took himself too seriously, and I think that's what people really appreciated about him.
He left a mark of love. Like, he showed everybody love. He showed the custodians in the football field love. He showed his teachers love. He showed his teammates love. He showed his classmates love. He showed his opponents love. Like, he just left love. And I think that's why losing him has been, it's obviously very hard, but his legacy of love and his impact was amazing.
You know, from left to right. Cameron's going to roll. Here comes pressure from behind. They'll throw it back across to Lutson Kirkin. Makes the catch at the tail of 5. He's in! Touchdown Tigers!
You look back and reflect on his legacy, and you see the impact he's made on this community, and you at least for me, I start to think, well, you know, why is that? What is it about Philip? And I think that it just comes down to one single thing, and it's selflessness. It was never about him. It was about everyone else.
Him having that big of an influence and having this platform being on the football team, he used it to the best of his ability. He really helped out a lot of kids through either cancer patients or Down syndrome or just anyone down on their left who was able to always say hi and help them out.
He would meet somebody for the first time and he left me like, man, Philip's one of my really good friends. He made people feel like that. And I think that's why losing him impacted so many people, because it's so easy to just make yourself available to people, and he did that. And I think that's why his impact is so big.
that type of personality just, it's infectious, and it radiated throughout this community. And the fact that he was also a successful football player just gave him that much higher of a pedestal in which to display those qualities and leave a mark here that I think will last forever.
I'd much rather be known for what I've done off the field and impacting other people's lives and how many touchdowns or how many catches I've had.
At this moment, I'm pleased to introduce somebody that I've become very close with, that I consider a very dear friend, and to introduce Mike Wilson-Kirkham, who is the father of Philip Wilson-Kirkham, the student athlete who speaks on behalf of the Lutzy 43 Foundation to carry forward Phil's legacy. But also, Mike Wilson-Kirkham has a love for people. Mike truly loves others and embraces that to the utmost. He sacrifices daily. I see his commitment to this foundation. I see his commitment to others, even when it comes to sharing something that's hard every single time. He's currently the executive director of the Lutzy 43 Foundation, and he uses this foundation to educate others on safe driving, especially student drivers and student athletes. And through preventing what happened to Philip, he doesn't want that to happen to others. Mike truly cares about those other people who are around him. He loves his neighbors. I truly believe that he is a man who's after God's own heart because he loves people that relentlessly. So it's my honor and it is my privilege to welcome Mike Wilson-Kirkham.
Good morning. So we had to get a couple rounds of bragging about what school you're from and cheering. I'm not going to go do that again, but I want to thank somebody that's in this room because this is the second time we've done a summit at an Oconee Fall Line Technical College campus. The first one we did was down near Sandersville, and that was over a year ago. And now we're on campus again for the second time here in Dublin. And President Erica Harden is over in the corner here. If you'd wave your hand, I'd appreciate it. If you get a chance to say hi to her, please do so. I get excited to come to Georgia Technical College campuses because you, if you're undecided what you want to do when you graduate, and your choices are to do nothing, to go get a job, to maybe go get in the military or the service, or to go get a continuing education at a 2-year, 4-year school, right here in Dublin, in Lawrence County, is a wonderful location for you to come to. So Erica, thank you for having us on your campus. Al, if you go ahead and put that next slide up, I'd appreciate it. So I was doing a little math here because I'm not smart, so I had to write it down. I want you to think about where you were June 29th of 2014. I love the looks over here. It's like, boy, that's a long time ago. Yes, I'm old. I can tell you, I'm going to tell you exactly where I was at. But if I did my math right, you seniors, you 12th graders, in 2014 were in 2nd grade. The summer going into 2nd grade. Is that about right if somebody does math for me? That means if there's a freshman in here, you were probably in kindergarten or preschool. But there's importance in me sharing that and having you think about where that was. And don't remember exactly where you were that day specifically, but I want you to think about the timeline. June 29th is 5 days before the 4th of July. And I grew up in Chicago, so I apologize, I kind of talk fast. And I don't say fixin' and I don't say y'all. So I'll try to keep it slow, but I've lived in Marietta, Georgia for 27 years. But no matter where you're at, June 29th of any calendar year, you're getting ready for the 4th of July. The time us adults love because it's typically a day off, maybe 2 days off. We get to celebrate that we live in the greatest country in the world, and you get to go celebrate. Here, you might go down a couple hours to Savannah to a beach. You might go shopping in Macon. You might hit one of the local lakes. You might just stay home and barbecue. But June 29th of 2014, maybe before I tell you a little bit about that, you got a chance to see my son in that video. My son, Philip, probably ought to ask this question. How many Georgia Bulldog fans do we have? That is so sad. That's all. Kirby Smart will never come and recruit here again if that's all he gets. How many Georgia Bulldog fans? How about Georgia Southern, since we're so close down to Statesboro? Okay. Mercer Bears. Okay. We've really got to work on these schools and their student recruitment. How about Auburn fans? Oh, man. By show of hands, maybe some of you high school football players here, did anybody know who my son was before seeing this video? And that's okay, only a few did. And I'm okay with that. See, Philip grew up in Marietta, Georgia. He was a high school All-American football player at Lassiter High School. He could have gone anywhere in the country to play football. His senior year in high school, he was first team All-State, and they gave an award out. I don't know how they do it. He was voted to have the best hands of any high school football player in this country. He fell in love with Auburn University, turned down Georgia, turned down other schools, and he went to Auburn. And he was there from 2009 to 2012. I'm proud of Philip because he was a three-time all-academic SEC Southeast Conference student athlete. And the reason he wasn't a 4 in a typical undergraduate degree is 4 years is because he graduated 3.5 years, and they didn't give them that award for that half year. He became a 2-time captain. You saw some video in that, and I didn't choose those videos, but he loved to play the Georgia Bulldogs. He only beat them one time, but that the game they won it, he had 2 touchdowns, and Auburn went on to win a national championship. He was a third-team All-American at the conclusion of his junior year, and he went on to play for the St. Louis Rams. One preseason, he had 2 significant injuries his senior year, a torn shoulder labrum and a torn hip labrum, so it only allowed him to play 6 games. He had a surgery. He was a projected 3rd-round draft pick had he come out after his junior year. He came back for his senior year to play that year, to be a captain. He thought he could win the John Mackey Award as the #1 tight end in college football. And then he was cut by the Rams because of those injuries, and he was living in Montgomery, Alabama. And I talked to my son on Friday, June 27th, and it's as vivid as it happened yesterday on a sunny day, about 5 o'clock. I was driving with my wife, Mary, in our van. And I asked him the typical questions a father asks of his son, his best friend. And I have 3 daughters, and they know I say that. My daughters know there's a special relationship between a father and son, and I have incredible relationships with my daughters. But I asked him, what was he going to do this weekend? How's his job going? How about coming home, spending some time with us? I said, no, Dad, I'm going to Auburn. He was 45 minutes away. He loved Auburn University. That was my last conversation with him that Friday. And then we went to Catholic Mass. I'm proud to tell people I'm Christian and I'm Catholic. And my wife Mary and 2 daughters that had already graduated college, one from UGA, one from Winthrop University. They were home that weekend. They went to an event with us. And we pulled in our driveway that Sunday morning about 10:30. It was about 80 degrees out already, 85. That 5 days before the 4th of July. I wasn't thinking about the 4th of July right then. Mary noticed this on our front door. See, that's a Post-it note or a sticky note. Depends on, I guess, your age. Guys like me do it all, use them all the time. On my computer monitor at home, I've got passwords on it. Probably shouldn't, but I can't remember things. And Mary walked in the house with that note. And before we got out of the van, I said to my daughters who were sitting behind me, where was Philip last night? And they gave me a very odd response. My kids are very tight. They said, we don't know. And I believe they immediately started to check on social media, check with friends. Mary handed me that note. We walked out to our deck. I called that number. I knew that was not good. Something was going on. That's a 706 area code in LaGrange, Georgia, or Troup County, which is on the border between Atlanta and Auburn. And I dialed the number. Mary's standing here. The girl's standing here. Man answered the phone. He said, you need to take down another number. I said, I'm not doing that. Tell me what's going on. He said, sir, you need to take down this number. I said, no, you tell me what's going on. And I reluctantly repeated the new number back to the girls, and the girls read it back to me. I dialed that number. And this time I got another voice. It was a male voice. And he introduced himself. I'm the coroner of Troup County, Georgia. And there was a crash last night. He didn't say accident. He said there was a crash last night. And Philip is dead. Post-it note. A post-it note on your front door to find out one of your 4 kids, your only boy, was dead. No details. So I started to share this lately with all the talks I give, and I was recently down talking to TCU, Texas Christian University football team. Dallas was at a corporate event in Vegas. And there's a line right here. When you have faith, you no longer straddle that line when you get something like that. You either go to one side and you question your faith. Quite frankly, where was God watching over my son that day? Or you come back to that line, you go to the other side, and you dive deep into your faith, and you grow it even further than where it was. And that's what I've chosen to do. And because of great people like the Georgia Department of Transportation and Commissioner Russell McMurray, who believes we need to educate teen drivers on being safer, and great schools like OFTC that give you their facilities and personnel to use. And if you look around this room and look at all these uniformed people, first responders, people that chose professions because they love it and they don't want to be showing up at teen crash sites. And unfortunately, we do. And my friend Lieutenant Maurice Raines over there, who's going to speak today, lead a breakout you're going to go through, he's going to tell you last night, overnight, we had 15 lives lost on Georgia roadways. And not one of them was in an accident. They were in crashes because of choices that were made by somebody. So we're truly here today to share Philip's story with you, but to invest in you. And I know that some of you have a driver's ed program at your school, but how many of you get to go in a tractor trailer during that driver's ed program? How many of you can tell me what a regulator or a governor or a limiter is that causes that tractor trailer to be set at 65 and no faster, or 70 and no faster? That's what you're going to learn about today from these professionals. So I hope you give them great respect. But after we learned of Philip, I watched my wife drop to her knees. I've known my wife since second grade. My daughter Amy, who I would put as far as toughness of anybody in this room, she screamed so loud at 10:30 that Sunday morning. Our neighbor, Miss Terry Fitzgerald, who's like an aunt to my kids, ran over. And my daughter Ann, who was the one in the video with tears streaming down her eyes, she turned more bright white than the whitest shirt in this room. And it was about 10 minutes, I estimate, that I quickly realized that my youngest daughter, Abby, who's not here today, she was on a bus between Jacksonville, Florida, and Atlanta, where we live, because she got to play in one semi-pro soccer game as a college athlete at the University of Alabama coming off of 2 surgeries. And I called Abby. And if she was here, she'd tell you he didn't ask me the normal questions. He asked me about a soccer game. Did I lead? Did we win? Did you score? How did your surgically repaired ankle hold up? He simply asked me where was Tess. I only knew one other girl on this team. Tess was sitting across from Abby. I want you to think about for a minute what's going through Abby's mind right now. I probably woke her up. What's going through Tess's mind right now? What does this ogre want to talk to me about? And all I could say to Tess was, please give your phone to your coach. This wasn't my daughter's regular team. It was a rehab opportunity. I didn't even know his name. I had to say to this coach, sir, I apologize, I don't know your name. But you know my baby girl's on your bus and her brother's dead. You need to take care of her for me. Because of choices. Choices made that fatal weekend. So Allie, if you'd go to the next slide for me, please. What do you do with this? You either go in a black hole, which I did for 2 weeks, and then you get energized and say, you know what, God's got a plan. We've got to use Philip's incredible life. 23 years and 29 days on this earth, and he did more than most people experienced at that age. He gave his heart to other people. I want to tell you a short story about a young lady named Bailey Moody. And if any of the kids up here have a phone, I'm going to give you a chance to do something for me. Do me a favor and Google Bailey Moody, if you would. B-A-I-L-E-Y M-O-O-D-Y. Then I'm going to give you one more task that I'm not going to tell you about, and it's going to scare you. Public speaking. Now he's like, uh-oh, why did I have my phone out? See, Philip had finished that junior year, won national championship sophomore, 13 All-American through Sports Illustrated, which doesn't even exist anymore after his junior year, told he's going to be a captain again, calls me home on a day similar like this. He's getting ready to go to spring break from Auburn, Alabama, down to the beaches, the Florida Panhandle. It's about 3 hours from Auburn, but he was going to come home 2 hours back to Atlanta the wrong direction. And I said, what's up? He said, hey, I heard there's a young lady that's not doing well. I don't have any details, so don't ask me a bunch of questions, Dad, but I'm her favorite player, number 43. So Philip came home on a Thursday night, the next day, and he and I went and met Bailey Moody that Friday morning. And we got out of the car on a cold day. Philip's a 20-year-old male. I think the ladies in this room will appreciate this. As 20-year-olds, we don't listen really well. I'm thinking, what's he going to hear? He's already in golf shorts and a t-shirt. I know he's going to the beach. Is his mind already set? I should be at the beach, meeting up with my teammates. And normally he'd get out of the room, he'd walk in there, he'd high five you, he'd give a war eagle, he'd hug all you girls. He was very calm. And we saw this beautiful young girl named Bailey Moody. She was 10 years old. Her parents, Tiffany and Patrick, we met for the first time, were on each side. She had a baseball cap on. Just smiling because she was meeting number 43. And there were two things I recognized under that baseball cap that just stuck out. One was an enormous smile. I looked at my son, I'm like, he's just my goofy 6'4", 255-pound, overgrown kid. But then I looked back at Bailey, and what really stuck out was the fact that she was completely bald. I'm not a smart guy, but I knew that she must have cancer. We walked in that Starbucks, and Phil put his arm around her, went and sat at one side of the Starbucks. I sat with the parents over at the next 90 minutes. They told me everything that was going on. They told me that she had cancer, and it was above her right knee, and she was an athlete already. For 3 days at age 10, after from basketball practice, we call them and say, my knee hurts, and the parents said, suck it up. There's no bruise, you're not working hard enough. And then they finally took her to the doctor, diagnosed with cancer. The day we met her was that Friday. They told me, Mike, next Wednesday, she's gonna have surgery. The surgery's gonna start. Do me a favor, look at your right knee right now. And imagine what would go through your mind trying to get off that bus you came here on, and all of a sudden you know you don't have a lower right leg because they're gonna amputate above the right knee. Some of you are in the band, some of you are in sports. All of us just walk in life. Can you imagine now having to go through that? And I just watched Philip just wondering, what are you gonna tell this young girl? Because the parents said, Mike, we can amputate the leg and get her an artificial leg, a prosthetic leg, and they'll take her through rehab, and if she wore pants or sweats, nobody would even know. I kept thinking back, Philip's going to the beach. If Bailey went to the beach, she'd be in a bathing suit. People would certainly see this. Philip, what are you telling her? Because the other option was a little more radical in my eyes. They said, after we remove that lower leg, do me a favor, stare at your right knee right now and envision looking down and not seeing your knee, but seeing the bottom of your right heel, the bottom of your foot, facing outward. See, because your ankle and hinge are a single unit, they could surgically place it where her knee was. So do me a favor right now, young man, if you come up here, I'd appreciate it. Yeah, Mr. Phone. So here's a good lesson as an old man. If you believe and you want to pray, to be disconnected from the world is a pretty good thing. You don't always have to have your phone with you. But you do me a favor by having your phone. What's your name? Jacory. Jacory, what school?
Dublin High School.
What grade? 7. Man, you got great hair, by the way. Can you read who Bailey Moody is?
American wheelchair basketball player and a member of the United States Women National Wheelchair Committee.
Basketball team, right? What number does she wear?
43.
43. Thank you, sir. Give him a round of applause. It's not easy to get across. So Philip met Bailey. She had the radical surgery. If you go and Google her, you'll see pictures of her with the prosthetic leg tucked up into the foot, without it. She wears number 43 at the University of Alabama. Philip went to Auburn, so she's a little bit of a hellion. She went to Alabama. She plays on their Paralympic wheelchair basketball team. She just came back this summer from France where she won a bronze medal as a member of the U.S. women's team. And there's a single word that her father shared with me that day that I hope permeates your heart today, because it's the first challenge I'm going to give you. As you go around this audience today, you're going to go through 4 different breakouts. One of those breakouts, you're going to go out by 3 large 80,000-pound tractor trailers. Howard Shepherd Trucking. You probably see their trucks on the roads all the time around here. They've got a vehicle and a professional driver. The commercial driver's license program here at OFTC, Brett Redfern, who leads that, they're going to instruct you about how to drive around these tractor trailers. I'm not a guy that's big on stats, but let me give you a statistic. The latest statistic is 9% of U.S. drivers ages 15 with a permit through 65 and older do not know what blind spots are around tractor trailers. The other way to think about that, 91% of us don't know what they are. And you know what? You're on one of the busiest corridors in the United States, from Savannah out and into Savannah with tractor trailers at 80,000 pounds, some up to, well, they can't be on the road, I guess 90,000 pounds. Those drivers, and here's the last stat I'm going to give you, maybe the last stat. The latest stat is 79% of the crashes that involve one of these 80,000 pound tractor trailers We, the light vehicle driver, are causing, because we don't respect how difficult it is to drive that tractor trailer. So you're going to get to go in a tractor trailer. You're going to learn what blind spots are. You're going to learn what a regulator, governor, or limiter is and why that company chose to set that vehicle speed at a maximum of 65 miles an hour. You're going to go in the room back here. It's a reenactment of a teen that came out of a crash that's now in an emergency room. And all the professionals you're going to see in there, somewhere in the back, are here because they chose that profession. And the last thing they want to go to work at and have a teenager come in from a crash, but they're going to do the best to show you what they're going to do to save your life, to get you out of that emergency room, and then you're going to go in that room and you're going to learn how to rehab. What are the things the experts are going to do to take you pre-crash to get you back to the mental status and the physical status of who you were? And then you'll rotate into this room and learn from law enforcement at the state level, 2 levels. Those protecting all of us, those protecting the commercial vehicle drivers, your Lawrence County Sheriff, and your Dublin Police. And they're simply going to tell you, here's how I work together with all the other first responders. Here's what I'm seeing in my jurisdiction of teenage drivers. And what I want you to think about as you go around today, and I'm going to get to the word in a minute I want you to think about, is I didn't grow up in a rural community, but I don't need to live here to know that many of you at age 16 have more driver's experience than kids in Marietta who got their license at 16, because some of you have been driving at 14 in this rural community. Statistically, in this part of the country, you think you don't need to wear a seatbelt on rural roads because it's safer. You think you can drive faster. Cortland's going to give you some statistics about Lawrence County in an upcoming here in a minute. And then you're going to get that chance after you get past the 6-month graduated driver's law where your parents are going to sit and say, yes, you can take the car. Yes, you can go with those 3 friends to Georgia Southern or to Savannah or to Macon, or who knows, maybe up 441 to 20, up 16 to 75 to go to your first Braves game. And your parents are going to be nervous as can be. And here's what we don't do a good job in our country. When you get that opportunity as that teenage driver to drive 3 teenage friends, and you're that 16-year-old that's now got 6 months of driving experience, so you now can have friends in your car, you're not an experienced driver. And if the leader of you 4 kids in that vehicle is sitting in the back seat and you're goofing around, there's a good chance the driver's going to goof around. So the word I want you to think about today and ask yourself, am I available? Patrick Moody came to my son's funeral. He walked down the aisle. Bailey was now 12. She had that fake artificial leg. Walks down with her parents. My son's in a casket behind me. And I'm going to tell you in just a minute what caused that to happen. And he started to cry after he told me, Mike, there's something I want to tell you, and then he broke down. And he couldn't tell me. But he called me 2 weeks later to say, Mike, you know what, after Bailey had that surgery, Philip came from Auburn University 5 times up to Atlanta when she was rehabbing, just to visit her. Never told my wife and I about it. Didn't brag about that stuff. But he was available to Bailey. And there's a thing called tithing. And if you have faith, tithing, usually they yell at you, it means 10% of whatever you earn goes to your church. But there's 3 words that begin with T, and I see some of you nodding your head about what tithing is. There's 3 words that define tithing. It's time, talent, and treasure. Have you ever heard that? None of us think we have enough time. You teenagers, you're in school right now to get the best education. Some of you have part-time jobs, I realize that, but you don't really have treasure right now. And I can just look out in this room, there's an enormous amount of talent. But if you let tenderness in your heart, a 4th word that begins with T, that to me is the definition of teen tithing. You will realize if you've got tenderness in heart to do something for others, to be available, you don't worry about the time, it costs you nothing, and it takes no talent. And that's who my son was off the football field. So I want you to be available today. I want you to tell these presenters after each breakout, thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for investing in me. Thank you for your chosen profession. I want you to tell your faculty that chaperoned you. I want you to go back and tell your principals, thank you for letting us go to this. I hope some of you will have the maturity to go back and get in that math class tomorrow or science class and say, hey, Mr. Jones, can we take just a minute so I can share with my classmates what we learned yesterday? It wasn't a field trip. It was education at OFTC delivered by professionals about road safety. I'm a simple guy. Road safety is 3 elements: infrastructure, vehicles, and people. Would you agree with that? And living here, what does infrastructure mean? It means these hurricanes that just came through 16 months ago. If you've had a chance to go on the interstate between here and Statesboro, you saw thousands of pine trees down. You know what? And now they're being removed. That's the sideway infrastructure. On the rural roads, infrastructure might consist of a small shoulder or a ravine. There's no concrete barriers. But as you get towards Macon and Savannah, you'll see concrete barriers. That's the infrastructure. And the experts in this room is GDOT, Georgia Department of Transportation. They know where to put a roundabout in. They know where to put rumble strips in. They know to reduce speeds. That's the infrastructure. The vehicles. Today, you're going to get educated on how to drive around those tractor trailers. So the third one is the people. That's all of us. That's where my son comes into play. We're here. How many of you have a driver's license already? Okay? How many of you, put them up high so I can see it, please. How many of you have a permit? Let me do this. My wife's going to get mad at me. I don't know what household you come from, but I don't think you're allowed to sleep in class. If you've got a classmate that's thinking it's nap time here, gently give him an elbow for me. You're the people. We're here for you. We're hoping if you've already, as a new teenage driver, think it's okay to TikTok, to Facebook Live, to look at text, to do this, you can. We're here for you, the passenger, to make sure you know the responsibility. See, if I was sitting with your parent, I would bet your parent, even if they don't wear a seatbelt, which, by the way, how many of you have a parent that don't typically wear a seatbelt when they drive? A lot of dishonesty here in Lawrence County. See, if your parent got in my car, I'm going to bet they put a seatbelt on out of courtesy to me. And if they didn't, at 61 years old, I'm going to say, do me a favor, put your seatbelt on. But see, that doesn't happen with teenagers because you don't want to be the fool. You don't want to be the nerd. You don't want to be the outcast. So I'm hoping today you'll be available leaving here to say, you know what? I'm driving. I'm wearing my seatbelt. You need to put a seatbelt on. And if you don't think it's safer, if you think it's safer in the back seat, let me correct that. My son was in the back seat. My son's dead. My son wasn't that much older than you seniors in this room. His football career was over with, and he went to this farm in LaGrange, Georgia. He was told, Philip, there's 12 other kids that are going to be here. We're going to show up at 9 o'clock on a Saturday. We're going to leave at 5 o'clock on a Sunday. Bring what you want to eat and drink because it's rural and there's nothing open. 23 years old. If you know my son, I guarantee he walked in with a case of water. He might have walked in with a case of Coors Light. Then these kids started to drink throughout the day. They rode horses. They went mudding. And then at 2:30 in the morning, what we were told was Philip saw a pickup or an SUV driving out of the driveway of this farm. Somehow Philip, 6'4", 255, got in the back seat behind the driver. The driver, young man in the passenger seat, my son, young lady. Who can tell me what BAC stands for? Yell it out for me if you can. Blood alcohol content. In the state of Georgia, in Lawrence County, in Dublin, if you blow in and you give a number of what, you're considered legally drunk. 0.08? Okay. See, Philip was a celebrity, playing football at Auburn, a national champion. 6 weeks after my son passed away, I didn't get a phone call from law enforcement or from the media. A Google alert came out. And then ESPN Sports Center that night. It didn't start out with a Cub highlight. My favorite team. It didn't start out with a Michael Phelps swimming highlight. Don't even know who Michael Phelps is. I got to get a new line. It was Auburn's Lutzenkirchen's BAC. 0.377. Do that math. See, these 4 kids got in a vehicle at 2:30 in the morning. All 4 kids were drunk. The one young man that got in that front passenger seat did a 2-second habit in his life. What do you think it was? He reached to his right shoulder, came down to his left hip. He might not have heard click, but he put his seatbelt on. That vehicle, the driver, the black box recording, he was going 77 miles an hour on a rural road. 3 miles from here, in a 45-mile-an-hour rural road, with no stoplights and no street lights. 2:30 in the morning, it's pitch black. He missed the stop sign. He hit a shallow ravine. I know all this because it took my wife and I 2 years to go visit this site, and I've never been back. I know this because I read an 8-page accident report the police asked me to read. See, the reenactment suggests that once that front end at 77 miles an hour, where he didn't brake, hit that ravine, it caused the back end to flip over the front. It went over side, over the bottom, over the other side, over the top. This is probably a 100-foot room. Went 450 feet through the air. That's the vehicle. You can't see that? That's the vehicle. It was upside down when they got there. The one young man did the 2-second half of his life. He could be here today. He said, I was crushed. I wiggled out like a snake. I didn't feel good. I ran for help. He came back and he tripped over the young lady that was ejected from the vehicle. He reached down and she didn't respond. He thought she was dead. She was read her last rites. By a miracle, somehow she survived. His friend, the driver in that vehicle, that was up in the air, upside down. He was laying through that like this. A stick figure on page 7 of the accident report with his name and 3 letters DOA for dead on arrival. The young man didn't find Philip. Philip was found when first responders got there and had lights. And Philip was ejected 15 feet from the vehicle. My son on page 7 looks like this. A stick figure. With Philip Lutzenkirk and a DOA next to it. They were drunk. They weren't wearing seatbelts. They were speeding. They were probably distracted. It was 2:30 in the morning on a hot summer morning. I bet you all the windows were open. They probably had loud music going on. And that's why we're here. That didn't have to happen. None of these first responders and these people you're going to find for the emergency rehab want to see you because of a poor decision. So I go back. Infrastructure, GDOT, the experts. Vehicles, companies like Zonar Technologies. They're not here, Lytics. But then out here you're going to get to learn how to drive around these big trucks and respect them. It's going to save lives. And then the behavior. We're hoping if you've got an established texting and driving, no wearing seatbelts, that's going to change starting today. I'd love to ask 2 questions and see the response, so please participate. If your parents have driven a vehicle in the last week, have they wore a seatbelt? If they haven't worn a seatbelt, raise that hand. Okay. If they haven't worn a seatbelt, typically do not wear a seatbelt. When you drive with your parents, mom and dad are behind the wheel, raise your hand if they typically use their phone or are distracted. So I'll close with this, and we'll cover it more at the end when we have a special guest coming in. 43 key seconds. It's an initiative to create a visual image that when you look at it, and you have it on your tables. Please put it around your neck, take it with you. There's a countdown. On the card, it looks like a credit card. It says, before you start your vehicle, no matter who you are, where you're at, what you're driving, or time of day, do I have a clear head, clear hands, clear eyes, and then we do tie into the 20-year program called Click It or Ticket by saying click it. And you can read behind me. What does a clear head mean? It means you ask yourself, am I drug impaired? Alcohol impaired? Teenagers, am I fatigued? That phone, am I technology impaired? Or something happened that you didn't play as much as you wanted in a game. You're mad at the coach. Your girlfriend dumped you, whatever. Boyfriend dumped his girlfriend. Are you emotionally impaired? If you're any one of those, I hope starting today, you have the common sense and maturity to step back and say, I'm not prepared to drive. I want you to be available to take this home tonight to mom and dad and say, hey, I think you may have known I went to this field trip. We learned about being safer drivers, more responsible passengers. Mom and dad, I love you too much. We're going to go through this. You got to stop texting and driving. Dad, you can't be driving between the farm and downtown with that cold beer. Please wear your seatbelt. That's 43 key seconds. I am thrilled to see all you kids here. I told some of the leadership from one of the schools, we'll bring back and run this summit at your school. I'm going to challenge you kids, if you think at the end of today was worthwhile, walk into your principal's office at your respective schools and says, we need to commit to this summit being at our school, because we'll bring this to all 3 high schools here. Be available today to one another. In closing, you've got different color wristbands, and there's a reason behind that. One is, it's going to force you to be available with somebody you may not know. I've got an orange band, and I'm from Dublin High School. I don't know that person with an orange band from East Lawrence. Say hello. I'll be disappointed if I don't see guys holding doors or letting girls go through first. That's being available. I'll be disappointed if I don't see you making a new friend. Also, the reason we do it is so 2 knuckleheads don't go together and cause havoc through the day. And I've already seen some of you try to exchange wristbands. Please don't. I'm going to walk around. I hope you'll tell me hello or hi. But please thank everybody that's here that made this possible today, because this is truly about making you safe and living well beyond my age. My son died at 23. I don't want anybody in this room dying at 23. God bless all of you. Have a great day.
First Lawrence Bank invites you to experience banking at its best. Whether you have personal or business needs, we're a full-service bank big enough to handle all of your banking needs and small enough to provide you with that personal touch you've grown to expect from a community bank like First Lawrence Bank. Looking forward to your future? That's First Lawrence Bank in Dublin and Dexter, member FDIC.
When someone says the word bank, what comes to mind? For most folks, it's probably money or loans. Maybe it's false. The problem is, these are all just things. And a bank is not a collection of things. A bank is a collection of stories. If you've been around long enough, you've heard one of us say, it pays to bank blue. The hero of our story is you. Every home bought, every business opened, every dream secured has been your story. We've just had a front row seat, and we can't wait to see what you do next.
Good morning. Let's try that again. Good morning. I'm Lieutenant Maurice Raines with the Georgia State Patrol and the Governor's Office of Highway Safety, oversee traffic safety awareness for our state. I do want you to give Mike a round of applause for what he's doing to educate you today. So let's give Mike a hand for what he and the Luxy 43 Foundation is doing. I want you to know Mike and I became friends because of Philip. My trooper worked the wreck that Philip was in that took his life. And it's a great honor that he and I became friends by such a great tragedy. But like he said earlier, it's all about you. But what you see behind me today is first responders. These are the people that actually come to crash scenes to investigate what took place and why you were in a crash. And I want you to give them a hand because they give up their time to be with you this morning as first responders. I want to read a scenario to you, and I hope it gets your attention of how things can happen in such a profound way. I will let you know, Holly said it, Cortland said it earlier, you do not have a right to drive. No one in this room has a right to drive. You have a privilege to drive. If you do right, you get to keep your privilege. If you don't do right, you can lose your privilege. So I want you to understand that that is an opportunity for you to either keep your opportunity to drive on the roadways in our state, or you can lose it by making bad choices and bad decisions. But I want you to think about this scenario. Imagine a dark, rainy morning, you snooze your alarm clock one too many times, and you're going to pay for it. One more tardy at school, you're going to get into major trouble. On the way out the door, you grab a breakfast and a coffee to go. The car is beeping to remind you to put on your seatbelt, but you're in such a rush that you don't put it on. Like always, you're headed to pick up your best friend from down the street, since you're the only one that can score a parking spot at the school. You'll put on your seatbelt when you get to his house, but you're still in such a rush you don't think about anything of it. Once your friend gets in the car, he starts telling you about how the coach at football practice got onto him, how the coach made him run. While talking and taking a quick bite out of your breakfast, you speed up. You are really hoping to get to homeroom in enough time to review for the first period science quiz. The semi-truck in front of you is going slow, too slow. So you decide to merge over into the next lane, but you speed up just a little too fast. You're listening to your favorite song on the radio. You're thinking about your science quiz coming up, talking to your friend about how the coach treated him so badly. You're so distracted, you don't look to see the car coming from behind. When you try to get around the semi-truck, you readjust, and you made a mistake. You yanked the wheel or the other way, but it's raining and you're hydroplaning. And you just realize that neither you or you have on your seatbelt. All of this is happening so fast. Now your car is going over a guardrail on the other side of the road. You will look at the screen and you will see what I just read you took place. So let's back up. In a rush, out the door, running late, picking up a friend, talking to a friend, listening to the radio, eating food, passing another vehicle, not noticing another vehicle around you, the roadway is wet. All of these things that I just mentioned did not have to happen. None of it. Crashes are 100% preventable. He didn't have to speed. He didn't have to be distracted. He didn't have to be having a conversation with his friend not to be focused on driving. He didn't even have to eat while he's driving, but he chose to. And so by that happening, these first responders are up here. They're going to tell you, based on this crash scene, what they would really do if this event actually occurred. And first, we're going to have come as Motor Carrier Compliance to share with us.
Good morning. I'm Brandon. I work with the Motor Carrier Compliance Division. We're the enforcement branch of the DPS on commercial motor vehicles. During this accident, we would respond just because a CMV was involved. We would go, we would check their brakes, their mechanical drive line, engine, the driver's papers, meaning their ERODs, ELD, to make sure that there wasn't fatigue driving. And it's basically just to see that that truck was in mechanical sound and it was safe to be operated on the roadway.
Thank you. Lawrence County Sheriff's Office, not WPD.
Good morning. I'm Officer Evans with Dublin Police Department. Our main thing would be first aid if needed until the fire department and EMS can get there. Once they arrive to take over first aid, our main focus is going to be scene safety, evidence preservation, and then we'll work the actual scene as far as any kind of reports. We'll assist EMS and fire with any kind of first aid that's needed also.
Champs Unit.
My name is Tony Thornton, and we are CHAMP. We do scene safety, period. What we do is we are making the scene safer for the guys that are behind me, ladies too, that are behind me. And if the scene is safe, we would do what we call advance warning. That's so that we will fix it so that you will know when you're coming down the road that something's going on ahead. So we got message boards. If you might have saw the truck outside, we put whatever message we need to on that board to make sure that these guys are safe when they're out there working.
Fire and EMS.
Thank you. I'm Terry. I'm one of the paramedics here with Lawrence County. So as we're responding to this scene, we're going to be sizing up what we think we may need, so the number of patients that are involved. Are there any entrapments? If they are, then we're going to work with our fire department partners to help us with extrication. We'll also give advance notification to the hospital to give them the opportunity to start preparing if we do have some serious injuries. And depending on the nature of the injuries, we may also notify Air Evac and have them come to the scene and join us there at the scene. So, and then our primary role there is to provide care to assist the fire department in safely extricating patients and then get patients to the right location.
Fire rescue.
Jared Olson, Lawrence County Fire. We're with Dublin Fire as well. So some of the things everybody's already touched on, but fire side, we're gonna show up. We got a couple things that we want to touch on our side: life safety, scene safety, incident stabilization. So life safety for us would be, first and foremost, each individual is gonna be in charge of their own personal safety, and then also in charge of, secondarily, will be anybody that'd be on scene. So anybody that's there working, we're going to be checking the life safety of that as well. And then scene safety and incidents, you know, have a car that's upside down, we'll make sure that thing's stabilized, it's not leaking fuels. It's any hazards that may be present with a vehicle like this, we want to stabilize that so we can get to work and then start assisting our other agencies with patient care. If we get there before EMS, we'll start patient care. If we don't get there before EMS, we will just assist along those lines. And then as far as incident stabilization, we want to take this from an emergency scene to a cleared scene. So in this instance, get the patient out, get them stabilized, get them off to where they need to go, and then once the tow truck's in there, they can get them out, and then that scene is clear. We have no hazards.
Thank you.
I'm Britta. I'm a nurse with the Area Vac Life Team. We have 2 bases here in Dublin, Georgia. So what we're going to do for this scene is we're going to get called by EMS when they've determined the need for us. We're going to get called for level of care, speed, or distance to transport the patient. We're going to rely on our fire department and EMS to set up a safe LZ for us to land as close as possible to this scene. We arrive as a team of 3, a pilot, a flight nurse, and a flight paramedic. We will get out of the aircraft. The paramedic and the nurse will. The pilot will stay in running. We will typically meet EMS in the back of the ambulance, and we will continue whatever care that they have started for the patient. We will also initiate new care, so advanced procedures. We can do rapid sequence intubation, which is a tube down your throat to help you breathe if you need it, chest needle decompression, surgical cricothyrotomies. We'll initiate medications to keep your blood pressure, heart rate up if needed, and we also initiate blood products to trauma patients. Once we wrap the patient up with the help of EMS and fire, we will then transport the patient back to the helicopter, load them in, lift, and take the patient to the closest trauma center.
Let's give a hand to all our first responders for what they do every day.
I'm Heath Richter, and we just want to invite everybody to come on down to the Houston Clinic and check us out at our new facility. We've been in Dublin for a while now, obviously, but have a new office here, and we'd just like you to come down and see some of the new stuff we're offering. And if you need to get checked out, we'd be glad to do that for you. We've got able to do some ultrasound-guided injections now, and physical therapy, and just a little bit better space, so hopefully we can get you in and out of here a little bit quicker.
Come by and see us today at our brand new location, the Houston Clinic, Medical Drive in Dublin.
Lakes Alignment and Truck Service is celebrating 70 years. Thanks to all our customers throughout the years for letting us serve you. For all types of tires for all types of vehicles, Lakes Alignment and Truck Service can help today. Tires for on and off the road vehicles, ag, farm, and irrigation tires. We bring service to your site. Lakes offers industrial tire pressing, trailers, forklifts, cranes, skidder tires, and 24-hour road service. Lakes Alignment can handle your passenger cars and trucks, commercial, semi-trucks, and trailers. Count on the most experienced techs anywhere at Lakes Alignment. Lakes Alignment, 104 Johnson Street, East Dublin. Call 478-272-4230 and join Lakes Alignment in celebrating 70 years strong.
Alert, 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 Tier 1 trauma, ETA 5 minutes. Alert, alert, ETA 5 minutes.
All right, guys, it sounds like this person you're bringing in is pretty injured. About to call on the lead trauma surgeon today. Let's go around and just kind of introduce ourselves and get prepared for the patient. Just review your name and what you're doing today.
My name is Leanne. I'm the nurse scribe, and I'm taking care of the documentation.
My name is Jason, and I'm the primary RN, and I'll be helping with the procedure.
I'm Dr. Jasper. I'm an emergency physician. I'm going to be here head of the bed, controlling the airway and assisting with the assessment.
I'm Madison from respiratory. I will be assisting Dr. Jasper with an airway.
I'm Savannah, I'm the secondary nurse. I'll also be helping with interventions.
Let's make sure we got our supplies ready. We've got a rapid transfuser, Foley, a G2. Here comes the patient.
Grandma, where's my mama?
Okay, we have a 16-year-old male patient, unrestrained driver, single car MVC. He's got an open femur fracture to the left leg, laceration to the right arm, and laceration to the hip.
On your count, 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's get this out of the way, guys.
All right, I got his head. Let's see if we can get him off the board. Here, backboard.
Get the feet over here, please.
And watch the leg right there. On my count. 1, 2, 3. Forward. All right, and 1, 2, 3. Let's do that. Roman, what happened? The airway is attacked. We can tell he's talking to us. Let me take a listen.
Chest X-ray.
You hear breath
Got
sounds
some
over here?
diminished breath sounds on the left.
All right, let's get a chest x-ray. I'm worried about his lungs here. So if you look at that chest x-ray, this side over here, that black area is a normal right lung. The left side, where it looks more white, is a trauma patient. It's blood, so we're worried that he's bled a lot into that chest. We're going to need to put a chest tube in.
Blood pressure is 130 over 80, heart rate's 128.
Yeah. So what we need to do is we've got to get the blood out of that side of his chest so that it'll allow that lung to re-expand and he can breathe a lot easier. So the way that we do that is we get a tube, this is a real chest tube, that we have to put that between his ribs and go into the right side of his chest. Right, we got to get your arm up here, buddy. Remember, pull up your shirt. So we're going to get a knife. Give me a knife. So we get a knife and we're going to cut kind of between the two ribs, get about a level of the nipple. Let me get a
You feel some pressure here.
This is going to hurt for a second, buddy.
It's going to hurt just for a moment, but it's going to help you breathe better.
So what we're going to do is we're going to poke through the chest. A lot of pressure. Okay, so then we're going to put the tube through the ribs and into the chest cavity. Let's get this hooked up. Let's get this hooked up to the chest tube suction tray. All right.
All right, how much did we get out?
500 bright red blood.
Okay. So let's make sure he's typing cross. We're probably going to need to initiate the massive transfusion protocol.
So I'm looking at our assessment here, Dr. Cohill. It looks like he has a large laceration on the forehead. Looks like it's going to be an open femur fracture there on the left. Can we do a quick fast exam on him?
Okay. A fast exam, Dr. Jasper is going to do that. That's where we're using ultrasound in jelly, and it gives us an image of the abdominal organs, and what we're looking for is blood. And on that picture up there, you have the liver and the kidney. Normally, there's no space at all. They're just touching each other. And that where it's pointing to the blood, that black area is blood in the abdominal cavity. So that indicates internal bleeding. So at that point, we're gonna plan to take him to surgery to fix that.
It looks like we need.
They need to hurry. You tell them to get it ready.
Yes, sir.
All right, and we have this femur fracture right here as well.
Can we give some pain medication?
We can't give his blood pressure is too low.
We're going to try to reduce this femur fracture because your thigh actually can hold a lot of blood. You can get a lot of bleeding from anything that's broken there. So if we can get this back into position, it'll reduce his pain and can slow some of the
We're going to
bleeding.
need to pull on your leg. It's going to hurt for. I'm sorry.
It's going
We
to
got
be
get
going
back in
around
place.
here. We have this ready. It's going to be on my call. It's going to be on 3. 1, 2, 3.
You're all right.
Sorry about that, buddy.
You're all right.
Hey, how are we doing now?
I think we're trying to lose an airway here.
Okay, airway's the most important. Let's check that.
Heart rate's 130, respiration is 6.
All right, so he's going to need to be intubated. Intubation means that we need to protect his airway and to breathe for him. If we don't, he'll stop breathing, and of course, we're going to kill him. So we're going to intubate him, which requires using something called a laryngoscope. That's this thing that we insert into his mouth and down into sort of his esophagus, exposing the airway. And then after we do that, we take a look and we drop the tube down in. So once the tube is in. We check to make sure it's in the right place.
So also, basically, when you put that tube down, there are really just two places it can go, either your windpipe or your trachea, or your swallowing tube, which is your esophagus. So when we put that tube in, we have to listen to make sure that we're hearing breath sounds, and we'll also get a chest X-ray to make sure that we haven't put it in too far.
We have good color change. So the tube sounds fine.
Good. So the tip, that arrow is pointing to the very tip of that tube. So if we push it, gets excited and pushes it in too far, it'll go down one side or the other. And it'll only be ventilating one lung. So that chest X-ray looks good. So we're going to whenever we do something, we'll always reassess and we'll recheck the vital signs, how we're doing.
So it looks like we have the airway secure. We have nice breath sounds with good chest movement. We've reduced the femur fracture for circulation. We know there's blood in the belly. We're anticipating we're getting to the OR as soon as possible.
So let's get an NG tube in, Foley catheter, and we'll get a central line in. So this tube here that Dr. Jasper has will go either through the nose or the mouth and down into the stomach. And what that does is suction out any air or fluid that's in the stomach so that we don't get any of that regurgitated or vomited back up into the lung. Then this is called a Foley catheter. Anybody ever had one? You don't have to raise your hand. But this goes from the outside world into your bladder. It isn't real comfortable if you have to have one. But what that does is allow us to measure urine output, and that gives us a good idea about whether the treatment that we're giving is effective. So one of the best measures of adequate, when we're giving somebody that's bleeding, we're giving them blood back. If they're making good urine, then that tells us that we're giving enough blood and IV fluid. And the contrary is true too. If they're not making any urine, then something's not right. So having that catheter in, which is hooked up to this bag and drains urine, we're able to monitor urine output. And then a central line is just a large IV, like you get in your hand, except it's way bigger. And it'll go either in the main vein in your groin area or under your collarbone into what's called the subclavian vein. So we'll get all that put in. This gives us more reliable IV access to good blood and IV fluid.
So Dr. Pohill, we've got him intubated, the NG is in, the Foley's in, we have the splint in place, we have IV fluids hanging, and I know he had received some blood prior. We're waiting for the rest of the blood products for the massive transfusion protocol. Can we take a look, see where we are right now? Everybody, do you still feel a pulse?
His blood pressure's not picking up.
Does he have a pulse?
I've lost pulse.
Okay, let's start CPR. All right, then I need to get thoracotomy tray.
So we remember he had a lot of white out on the left side. We got our chest tube in with 500 mLs out. Sounds like he's lost some blood, and that's why we need that.
How are we doing on the pulse? Any pulse?
Only with compression.
With compression. So the pumping on the chest is still no pulse. What we do in this situation is called a thoracotomy. You see it on TV. They said it was time to crack the chest. This is when we would actually do it. Can you get the rib spreader, Dr. Jasper? So I'd make can you scalpel? So I'd get a scalpel and I would cut basically from this breastbone in the middle all the way down to the table. Then I would get my fingers right here, spread between the ribs. Dr. Jasper would put that between his ribs, and then we crank it out like this. And what that does is expose the heart. So I'd stick my hand in there and grab the heart and start squeezing the heart, which is just like doing chest compressions. If there was blood built up around the heart, I can cut into that and drain it. I can clamp the aorta, the main the artery coming out of the heart. If that still did not work, y'all seen the external defibrillator pads? These are internal defibrillators. So these would go directly onto the heart and deliver a shock and try to get the heart beating again as we're giving him blood. So we'd do that, shock. Do we have a pulse or blood pressure?
I do have a pulse.
Okay, is the OR ready?
The OR's ready now.
Okay, so we would take him directly over to the operating room and explore the chest, close that up, and also do a surgery on his abdomen to look for the internal bleeding that we saw on the scan.
Okay, what do you think about my room now? What sticks out to you? Blood, right? So throughout the process, you heard a bunch of times Dr. John and Dr. Jasper saying all the places that blood can build up. Typically, in a patient that's really injured, that's one of the things that can make someone die more quickly, so we love to attack that as soon as we can. As you can imagine, those procedures are pretty messy. What else sticks out to you? The mess. Do you think we take our time to perfectly unwrap every piece of equipment? No. This would typically go probably at least 2 or 3 times faster because we can do everything at the same time. This team works together every single day so they can anticipate needs, and a lot of times they wouldn't even have to talk to each other. They would be passing and going and everything would move a little quicker. Does anybody have any questions about what you saw? Do you guys feel like you see these patients in your ER? This level of injury does not occur in people that wear their seatbelts, okay? This is my real trauma bay at my hospital after a similarly injured patient. You can see a lot of the things they demonstrate, the rapid blood products, the blood on the floor, the code cart, the mess, the thoracotomy. So this was a real patient of ours. Does anybody, who has their license yet? You guys are probably mixed, right? So not a ton of you. Everybody else not yet? Okay, so you're gonna hear all today about distracted driving. Most of you guys are riding right now. Your day will come, don't worry. But if you're riding, you need to make sure that you are holding yourself accountable and your driver accountable. We have also seen a huge increase in pedestrian injuries. Do you guys know what pedestrian means? Walker, so people that are walking. Your campuses are probably nice and spread out. Most schools out here are. So just think about walking through the parking lot, making sure that you're making true eye contact, being a safe crosser, since you're not the one driving yet. Who's ever ridden in the car with a friend? For every friend in the car, double the chance for accident and injury related to those accidents. So just kind of making sure that we do everything perfect. You guys are smart and safe, but everybody around you probably isn't, so that's how we want you to operate. No questions about what you saw. You know everything that happened. Did anybody hear who Roman was asking for when he got to the hospital? His mom. Would you be sad if you did this without your mom, dad, grandma, whoever takes care of you? I would. So do you think that the paramedics stopped driving and stopped taking care of you to call your mom and dad? No. Their job is to get you here as fast as they can. And because of where you live, you may go through all that and then have to go to a specialty facility if you had, a special injury or a brain injury or a spinal cord injury. What do you think you would have to do then if we had to get you somewhere else quickly? How would you get there? Air, in the air. So you might have to do all that and then get on the helicopter with these ladies too. So you guys are really blessed because you have a good functioning trauma center, but there's not everything in your city, so you might have to go somewhere else. There is, I will say, a special person that responds to you in the hospital to identify who you are and who needs to come be with you. Who has a cell phone? Yeah, so all the cell phones have an app. In the iPhone, that's what I'm familiar with, it's called the Health app. That's your homework assignment from us today, is to go in and you can actually put your primary emergency contact. EMS, they actually will try to pick up your phone, assuming that you are safe and it's somewhere they can find it, and it wasn't in your hand when you crashed. They can actually use that to call whoever, and you can put your health issues, any allergies. A lot of these medications we do on standby, people are allergic to, so it's helpful to know that. We can fix allergic reaction, it's just harder to reverse death, so we'd still give it to you if we didn't know. Okay, well I'm just gonna stare at you for another 10 minutes then. Is anybody interested in healthcare? Oh yay, what do you guys wanna do? Surgeon? So I have a surgeon. If you want to know like what a day in the life is, what kind of surgery do you want to do? You don't know yet? You have time to decide. Do you want to know how long he had to go to school to be a trauma surgeon? 4 years. Four and then what?
So it's 4, after you graduate high school, it's 4 years of college, then 4 more years of medical school, and then surgery training is 5 more years. Then I did another year after that, in additional training.
So if you were a general surgeon, like you just wanted to do like organs, you could stop after 5. If you want to do anything special, orthopedics, trauma, you would add a couple more years. I don't know if you guys are doing the math. That's a lot of school. What do you guys want to do? A little less school? Just kidding. You raise your hand. No? What about in the back? I saw some hands. Amazing call. Great work-life balance. And we all need skin checks. That's so awesome. You say boring?
Oh, I didn't say that. Julie, can I take a moment? I want to share something with you all because we do this so that we don't have to see you as a patient like this. But what people sometimes forget is we're humans, we're parents, we're brothers, we're sons, we're husbands. And so just so you know how it affects us. So I always want people to understand that when we get that radio call, that there's a trauma coming, a 16-year-old unrestrained motor vehicle crashed into a tree, before we ever see you, we already develop sort of, in a sense, an emotional attachment, because especially if we have kids of our own. So one of the reasons that it's so difficult at times for us is because we have our own experiences and we know what it takes to recover from injuries like this patient would have had, and we don't want to see you all like that. So it's an emotional event for us, both before you arrive, during the process, because as you can imagine, if Dr. Polhill is seeing blood in your abdomen and we know he has to take you to the operating room, he's not expecting to go in there and that everything's going to look fine. He's expecting that there's going to be something bad that's going to change your life. And so that's emotional for all of us. We do this because we love it and we like to see good outcomes, but we know that we don't control everything that's going to happen to you once you're in that car and you don't buckle that seatbelt and you end up, whether it's a tree or a person or another car, and then you're going to come to us. The most difficult part really for me, and I'm speaking from my just personal experience, is when I have to leave that trauma bay and I have to go talk to mom or dad or grandma or grandpa or friend or spouse. That's one of the most difficult things that I do in my daily work. Before I can go and talk to your parent, if you probably don't know this, I have to go sort of off to a space by myself just to get myself prepared to have that conversation. It takes a lot for me to not cry with your parent, and not cry with your sibling, because I have to remember that I'm trying to still do the job, make sure we get the best outcome from you, and then relay the information. So I don't want you all to think that this is only affecting just you. It affects the trauma service, it affects your family, affects your friends, it affects everybody that actually touches your life. And so we prefer prevention, so that we don't have to go through all those touch points and all of those difficult times. And the last thing for me is, after events like this, we do have the opportunity to do huddles sort of afterwards. As a group, when we have very difficult cases, we tend to sort of huddle up and we give people the opportunity to talk about how they feel so that they can actually get over this, because as you can imagine, it's a traumatic event for us as well.
And this is fully preventable. So I do, to his point, they do undergo special training to lead the room. So they're both especially trained to be a leader and to guide us and know what we need as a team to achieve those good outcomes. But we do also have great spiritual health services in our hospital. So do you think working in the ER, we sometimes see our family or friends first when they arrive? Yes, we don't always get a call, so we may have to take care of our coworkers and things like that. So there's a special response team. One summit I did had a dog that responded with their team. His name was Doodle, very cute. So we, just like you have at school and in the community, we do have those mental health resources. COVID taught us a lot about how we were being underserved as hospital staff as far as mental health goes. Do you think that?
Can you speak to two things? Can you talk about how this case would have been different with the seatbelt in place? And then can you address what the survival rate is if you have to open somebody's chest in the ER?
Yeah, the chances of, this is called a blunt arrest, is compared to like if somebody got stabbed or shot. Even if somebody, let's say somebody gets stabbed in their heart, we have to crack their chest in the emergency room, the chance of them living is like 1%. So that if somebody has a cardiac arrest after a fall or a car accident, that's called a blunt type of injury, it's almost 0% chance of them living.
Now, since we're a great team and we saved them, obviously, how long do you think this patient's recovery would be? Long time, weeks, months, years, depending. Next up, you guys will actually get a chance to see some rehab, which is awesome. So, you know, we do have the big Grey's Anatomy response initially, but the mental and physical toll this would take on a patient, even a young, healthy one, would be a lot. So, mentioning the seatbelt, if you are wearing a seatbelt, speed is also the largest indicator of how hurt you'll get. Do you guys know when car companies are designing a car for the maximum safe speed, so if you got in a crash, the maximum safety, what do you think the miles per hour is that they have in mind? You're whispering. Close. 45 was my guess up here. No. 35. So how many roads between here and home are 35 or more? Most of them probably, right? I drove in here, I know how fast you can drive. So just because of where you live and things are spread out and it's a little more rural, you can drive faster. So that automatically puts you at risk. Cars, the newer they get, the more safety protection you have. So they have rounded knobs and rounded dashboards and seat belts and all that. So you may get like a little seatbelt burn or a little whiplash, but you'll stay in your car. If you don't wear your seatbelt, where do you go? Up and out, right? So by wearing that seatbelt, you may get some little skin burns or it may hurt your belly, but all of that they can take care of easily. You would probably be discharged that same night.
I was going to say, so the overwhelming majority of patients that I see from car accidents do not involve me having the surgeon there. So it makes his job and his life a lot better. It makes your life a lot better and your family's lives a lot better. So I can give you identical cases of someone who sounds like the accident is identical, same speed, and same, you know, what happened, but the outcome is vastly different in the person that had the seatbelt who goes home and the person who goes to the operating room who may not go home, you know, for weeks or months. So that's exactly
question.
the point.
Yes, trauma, right? An accident. Could you explain the difference between being on like ATV or motorcycle compared to being on TV?
Thank you for saying that. I forget because we don't do a lot of ATVs where I live, but everybody else does. Also seen a ton of e-bikes. I was driving on the road just as a civilian the other day and saw somebody that was on an e-bike underneath a vehicle. If you are not in a car, which have walls and windshields, what happens if you crash on an ATV? You are exposed, right? What about a motorcycle, e-bike, up and out? So you have pretty much no protection. Am I saying I never want you to have fun again? No. I did a really rural summit a couple months ago, and one of the 6th graders walked up and he said, "Hey, me and him, we both have motorbikes." And I was like, that's fine. We want you to have fun, but we want you to do it safely. If you're doing those things, you have to wear a helmet and you have to wear protective gear because those things go fast. And it does not, and then if you factor any level of substance, because of where we live, a lot of people will, you know, have a couple drinks and ride on their ATV and crash. And your risk of injury is just nothing but bad at that point. So just because it's not a car doesn't mean you don't need to be practicing safe driving. Thank you for bringing that up.
But there's one other thing that's really important about that too. She talked about what's the miles per hour of safety in cars that are really sort of tested and proven to work for. On an ATV, people are mistaken. They think you have to be going 40, 50, 60. You could be going 10 miles an hour and fall off that and have injuries that are more severe than a belted, you know, car accident. So don't, you know, mix it up and say, well, I was only going and I didn't this. So we really push helmets, the same way we talk about seatbelts, helmets, because so many of us when we're young, we feel invincible. And we believe somehow that if it happens, we're not gonna hit our head. But your head is the heaviest part of your body based on the relative size. So it tends to hit. So don't think that a helmet doesn't matter. It matters significantly. But I like the fact you said protective wear, because I will confess I used to ride a motorcycle, but when I rode it, I always wore protective wear. You're supposed to have gloves, you're supposed to have long sleeves, and I recommend you have a jacket of some sort. You're supposed to have long pants, you're supposed to have boots. So if you know that you go out and you ride on a four-wheeler, you're not wearing those things, you're actually not riding it correctly.